This conference will now be recorded.
Hello, this is Guy Severson with Graceful Touch, yet again today with an exciting interview for you. Today I have with me Helen Usera, and she is a meeting facilitator right here in the beautiful city of Rapid City. Welcome, Helen.
Thank you, Guy.
So tell me, Helen, a little bit about what it means to be a meeting facilitator, what our audience around Rapid City and beyond would need to know about you and how, from that area.
The concept of meeting facilitation is really about neutrality. Many times you'll bring people together about an issue, about a goal, and those individuals may have different perspectives, most likely they do. And the meeting facilitator in me is the person who comes in and asks the hard questions, looks at from an external view at what the situation is, and helping them to get to answers that work for them, not for me as the meeting facilitator, but for them and their organization.
Excellent. So, Helen, you told me now a little bit about, the dynamics of what you do, but who are you as it relates to this whole concept of meeting facilitator? And tell us a bit about you.
Great. I actually, probably the best way to describe me is I like to talk. I enjoy that piece. I am a huge communicator. Whatever I do, it always comes down to communication. And so to be able to have the conversations, to be able to have difficult conversations is something that I enjoy doing. To me, it's like a problem. It's taking a piece of puzzles and putting them together. And I enjoy that type of interaction to be able to say, oh, this dot connects to that dot, and this dot connects to that dot. And it's really about making connections through communication. I have always been a person who enjoys speaking in public. I enjoy talking with people and getting different perspectives. And this allows me to expand upon that, that love and that passion to make things better and to be able to get things moving forward. I have done everything from implementing new policies as a principal to implementing policies with the U.S. Department of Education, No Child Left Behind, and it always turned around to a discussion that needed to be had so that everybody was on the same page. Not that everybody agreed, but that everybody knew where the starting point was. I remember as a principal, I was putting into place some new curriculum guidelines that were set forth by the district, the school district, and one of the teachers said to me, just tell me why. Tell me why we need to do this. And once we were able to sit down and have the conversation about why it was important, then things could move forward. And a lot of times we don't take the time to answer that question of why are we doing this? So with my background, I feel like that in education, with policy development and policy implementation, it's been one of those things where it's just grown and grown, and I enjoy doing it. I don't mind being the bad guy in the room either and asking the hard questions.
Hard questions sometimes are the ones that need to be asked, right?
Correct.
So, so tell me a little bit about, we've heard about a little bit about who you are, what your passion is. Tell me a little bit about who your ideal client would be. Who is it that you are looking to connect with in order to help them take that next step forward within their own life processes?
Sure. My ideal client is either an organization or a small business that really wants to move to the next level.
Now, would that be within Rapid City or, period?
Period. It doesn't matter where the location is. I've worked with companies outside of South Dakota and organizations outside of South Dakota to go through this similar process of sitting down and saying, okay, where are we right now? What do we have for data? Because data is really important, whether that is customer or client satisfaction, sales numbers. It goes into, what is the current status and what is it that you're trying to get to? Trying to identify that question of what is our goal point is sometimes difficult because you want to improve, but you may not know exactly what needs to improve. It might be something internally, it might be something externally. Either way, being able to sit down, look at the data, and have a goal to move towards, and really setting up an action plan that is doable. My favorite is when I can bring together people from all levels within an organization, where it isn't just the CEO and the board members, or it's not just the executive director and the administrative team. It's bringing in representation from all levels, including the entry-level staff, because a lot of times what we end up doing is we identify goals and strategies to move forward, and it's not plausible. You get into the person who's at the front desk and says, I don't know how I'm going to be able to do this because you're expecting X, Y, and Z, and I need to have time in order to meet all of the requirements that are necessary to do intake. So it's really about leveling that out and saying, okay, what is doable and what is the timeline for that?
Interesting. So there's this theme out lately called, maybe you've heard of it. COVID. So has the whole COVID pandemic situation caused you to have to pivot within the processes of what you do? And what does that look like? Are you more virtual now than you were? And, has that caused anything like that?
The COVID thing has been an interesting dynamic in so many ways. For my work, what I have found is that some of the organizations and companies that were wanting to work with me had to put their work on hold. They felt that they needed to either possibly downsize, they didn't know what their employment status was going to be and their income level at that point. So the projects were put on hold. For other projects that required more the strategic planning type of element, I have actually been able to, and meeting facilitation, been able to use online platforms like this to host those meetings. And at first I was a little bit hesitant. I mean, one, it's change, right? It's
Right.
a different way. And are you going to be able to engage everybody? And I have felt that through this process, it's worked. People want to interact. They want to have conversations. And if it means having to use an online meeting portal like this, but having the face-to-face with the web or with the video component is really important, because everybody can see, oh, this person is going to ask a question, and they still can hear each other and bounce things off of each other. And that has been exciting for me to see that, because it gives me another avenue and business line, if you will. In the future, are there ways that I can facilitate meetings remotely? And, it might be a team in Guatemala. So what does that team in Guatemala, to fly to Guatemala, as much as I would love to go there and drink coffee
Sure.
in Guatemala, it is another aspect of, what is going to be cost efficient in order to get through the process. So I'm learning a lot more about technology with the web-based video conferencing.
So I know when we were talking about doing this, you mentioned that you might have a couple of questions too. Let me turn the table here, and you said you might have a couple of questions for me. Is there something you would like to ask?
So in your world, in massage therapy, you
Mhm.
are a very hands-on industry. And with COVID, I know that there had to be some changes and adaptations that you had to undergo. And so what types of things did you have to do in order to address this changing dynamic?
I'd say, and to answer, that's a great question. Helen, I would say number one, what we've had to do is listen. Um, there's a lot of information, there's a lot of misinformation going on out there, and it is affecting, it has no choice but to affect our clientele. So we have to be able to listen and hear what they say. This client wants us to wear a mask. We wear a mask. Doesn't matter whether we agree with the mask idea or not. Listen to what their needs are. We run regularly a program called Click Big Deals through Channel 13.
Mm-hmm.
And I have people that are contacting me from the rollout that we did, saying it expired. Technically, they're right. Their program expired during the COVID. Sorry, you're out of luck. If we approached our business that way with them, we would be losing friends as a result. And that's really important that each business, I don't care what business you're in, looks for ways to build bonds of friendship with one another rather than shut doors of opportunity. We we can get through this together. That's actually one of the reasons I do these videos, because I am helping Rapid City people get out there and have a voice that they might not otherwise have, so that we can grow together and build together. I don't believe that this whole COVID thing needs to be something that is necessarily a negative thing. Is it a hard thing? Yeah. Oh, yeah. No question, it's a hard thing. Let's look for how we can make it positive. That's my approach.
Well, I think you hit on one of the key aspects of what I find with the work that I do, and that is communication. Communication is as much about talking as it is about listening, and hearing what your customers want and need is really key to it all. One of the things that I've done during this time is I have reached out to my past clients and said, can you take a survey and let me know what you thought of my work, what changes you think I should do, how did it impact you, and where are you now? And that has allowed me to really take a step back and assess where I'm at. We go and go and go in our work. And I think the COVID situation has allowed me and forced me to have to take a step back, breathe, and reassess. I've actually taken time to read books that I haven't gotten to read, watch webinars I haven't seen. The Elevate Rapid City here in Rapid City has been posting different webinars, and that has been good to be able to see other businesses and how they've adapted and molded, and hearing what their struggles are. There's also, I mean, it's a lot of action, right? I'm a very action goal-oriented person. So for me, it's, okay, what's my next step now? And I think had I not had this time right now, I may not have been forced into really where I'm at.
Gotcha. Hang on just one quick second. All right. So then the next thing I would have is there anything that you feel hasn't been shared here that, you know, really needs to be a part of this call?
I think the big thing for everybody to remember is that we can look at each situation as a time to either be frustrated, or we can look at it as a time to grow. And within each of us, there are opportunities to grow, not only with our business, but individually. And as I stated, this has given me a chance to take a step back and say, what resources do I need to study up on? What things do I need to do in order to be able to be ready to launch in the future, whenever those doors open, and finding new ways to reach out, because people don't want to be alone.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, whether it's through video conferencing or a phone call, there is something that we've gotten back to the basics about, and that all comes down to making sure that we touch base with people, because we are meant to do that. Even the introverts
Absolutely.
like to touch base with, you know, there's a whole new way. And I've learned how to embrace the introvert part of me, as well as trying to explore new ways for the extrovert. We all have tendencies, but we both exist in us at some point.
That's right. Speaking of, you know, connecting with people, what's the best way for people that are listening to this video and that want to speak with you, want to reach out to you? What's the best way for them to do that?
There are several ways. The one that you used was Facebook. I do have my own business page. It's called Aspiring Consulting, and you can reach me through that.
Let's slow down there for just a minute. Aspiring, ASPIRING?
Correct.
Consulting. Okay, Aspiring Consulting on Facebook. That's her Facebook page. Go ahead and continue.
And I also have a website called aspiringconsult.com. And that is another.
That's consult, not you dropping the ing, consult.com.
Correct.
Okay.
And the third way is through my email, aspiringconsulting@gmail.com.
Got it.
And I
Got
keep that Gmail account.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll get that converted during this time too.
Actually, I still use Gmail too, even though my email is guy@gracefultouch.org. It comes right to Gmail. That's, you know, Google's got a niche in all of us. There's no question.
Definitely.
All right. So, anything else before we bring this to a close that you think is important to bring into this call?
Not at this time. You know, everybody's situation is different. So to say that there's a one fit formula, there isn't.
Right.
There's always going to be adjustments. So, you know, looking at each client individually for their needs, but the basic principle is communication. Just having the opportunity to communicate as a team and identify how you want to move forward.
Excellent. Again, we've been speaking with Helen Usera, who is right here in Rapid City, and we thank you for your time today, Helen.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too.